I opened my own salon, but my former boss showed up and snickered, "You'll be out of business in a month." I replied, "Let's talk after my grand opening." She was shocked when she saw the crowds. Let's talk after my grand opening. The cafe was nearly empty, except for the two elderly women gossiping in the corner and a tired barista who'd been yawning since I ordered my third refill. I hunched over my laptop, triple-checking my social media announcement for the 100th time. The text was simple enough. Grand opening. Chic and sleek salon, this Saturday. Join us for the ribbon cutting, giveaways, and free consultations. My heart pounded each time I read the words. My salon. Mine. I was about to open my own business, and with every thought, a wave of fear and exhilaration washed over me. I'd worked nearly 10 years at Bella Cuts under Veronica's thumb. It felt like a prison sentence at times. But now I was free. I could do things my way, finally. I knew I was good enough to run my own place. Better than Veronica, even. I took a deep breath, rehearsing what I'd say to anyone who asked why I'd left Bella Cuts, though my story didn't need much embellishment. Most of my friends and regular clients already knew the truth. Veronica had made my life miserable. She was a control freak, criticizing my work, micromanaging every appointment, and treating me like I was an intern who didn't know scissors from a comb. And the way she'd take credit for my clients I'd built through hard work and patience. I could still hear her voice. "Danielle, it's just better for the salon if they think all the stylists work under me," she'd say, as if that would somehow make me feel better. I pushed the memory aside and closed my laptop, getting ready to head home and start the final preparations for the big day. I had stylists lined up, partnered with a nearby cafe for refreshments, and even managed to snag a feature in the town's monthly magazine. This was going to work. It had to. Just as I packed up my things, the cafe door swung open, and in walked a figure I recognized instantly. Veronica. Of all people. She spotted me right away, her eyes narrowing in that familiar, icy way of hers, and then she smiled. The kind of smile that made my stomach flip. She sauntered over to my table, her heels clicking against the floor in that authoritative, condescending way of hers. "Danielle," she said, drawing out my name. "I heard you were opening a little salon." I put on my best neutral face. "Yep. Chic and sleek salon opens this Saturday. Grand opening starts at noon." Her eyes flickered with amusement as if I'd just told her I was opening a lemonade stand in my front yard. "Cute," she said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. She leaned in, folding her hands on the table. "Let me give you a little bit of advice, Danielle. You'll be out of business within a month. Maybe 2. Tops." I bit down the urge to snap back. "Thanks for the encouragement, Veronica," I said, forcing a smile. "Oh, honey," she cooed, leaning back with a smirk, "you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. Owning a business isn't about cutting hair. There's rent, utilities, taxes." She listed each word like it was a nail she was hammering into my dream. "And let's not forget," she added with a flourish of her hand, "competition. Real competition. But good luck." She started to turn away, but something in me snapped. Maybe it was all the time she'd belittled me, talked over me, made me feel small. "Let's talk after my grand opening," I said, my voice cool. "Then we'll see who needs the luck." Veronica froze, looking back at me with that tight-lipped smile that had terrorized me for years. She gave a little shrug. "If you insist. But don't say I didn't warn you." She turned on her heel and left without another word. I sat there, seething, but as I watched her walk out, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I wasn't her employee anymore. I didn't have to answer to her or put up with her smugness. This was my life now, and I was going to make it work. The days leading up to the opening were a blur of preparations, nerves, and sleepless nights. I could barely get any rest, tossing and turning as my mind raced with 1,000 what-ifs. What if no one showed up? What if Veronica was right? What if this whole thing was a huge mistake? But as Saturday arrived, I forced myself to shake off the doubts. I put on my best outfit, touched up my makeup, and headed to the salon hours early to make sure everything was perfect. The place looked amazing, even better than I'd imagined. Crisp white walls, modern decor, stylish chairs, and a reception area that felt warm and welcoming. It was everything Bella Cuts wasn't. As noon approached, I started to see a few familiar faces trickling in. My heart swelled as I greeted each person, friends, family, former clients, even a couple of local influencers I'd managed to rope in. It was going well, really well. I felt like I was on top of the world. And then she showed up. Veronica stood outside the salon, peering in through the window with an expression that could only be described as pure rage. She looked around, taking in the packed salon, the people laughing and chatting, and then she pushed the door open and walked in, her eyes fixed on me. The room went quiet, people's heads turning as they noticed her entrance. I could feel my palms start to sweat, but I took a deep breath and forced myself to meet her gaze. "Veronica," I said, keeping my voice steady. "What are you doing here?" "Oh, just stopping by," she said with a faux friendly smile. "I wanted to see how your little project was going." "Looks like it's going pretty well, don't you think?" I replied, gesturing around the room. She glanced around, her mouth set in a tight line. "This is quite the turnout," she said, trying to keep her tone light but failing. "I'm glad people came out to support me," I said, feeling a surge of confidence. I could see the frustration on her face, and I knew I'd finally gotten under her skin. Veronica's face twisted with barely disguised contempt. "Don't kid yourself," she hissed, stepping closer so only I could hear. "People are just here for the freebies. They'll come once, take their little gift bags, and then go right back to Bellicut's. You'll never be able to compete. You're not me, Danielle. And you never will be." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I wanted to scream at her, tell her she was wrong, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Time will tell, Veronica," I said quietly, holding her gaze. "Time will tell." She gave a little snort, turning on her heel. But before she left, she paused, looking over her shoulder with that same condescending smirk. "Good luck, Danielle. You're going to need it." And with that, she was gone. The rest of the day flew by in a whirlwind of laughter, smiles, and congratulations. By the time I finally locked up that night, I was exhausted but exhilarated. The grand opening had been a success, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Over the next few weeks, business continued to boom. Clients came back, new ones walked in, and word of mouth spread faster than I'd ever imagined. Each time someone complimented the salon, I felt a little more of my confidence returning. And every time I saw someone from Bellicut's walking by, peeking in to see what the fuss was about, I couldn't help but smile. And Veronica? Well, I heard through the grapevine that she wasn't handling my success too well. Rumor had it she'd lost some of her regulars to me, and I couldn't deny the satisfaction that gave me. I'd finally broken free, finally proved her wrong. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly happy. Some days, I'd catch myself replaying our last conversation, thinking of all the things I could have said. But in the end, it didn't matter. I'd won, and that was all the revenge I needed. As the weeks turned into months, chic and sleek salon continued to thrive. Each morning, I unlocked the doors with a renewed sense of purpose and pride. Regulars filled our chairs, and we became a neighborhood fixture, where friends would drop in just to say hi, and clients felt like family. It was everything I'd dreamed of and more. But even in the midst of my success, there was a nagging worry that lingered. Veronica had never been the type to back down. I'd heard through various clients and friends that she was struggling. Bellicut's was losing regulars, the staff turnover had been ridiculous, and even her longtime loyalists were starting to look elsewhere. Still, I knew her well enough to know she wouldn't just let this go. Then, one day, as I was going over invoices in the back room, Marnie, one of my stylists, rushed in, looking panicked. "Danielle," she gasped, a little out of breath. "You're not going to believe who's out front." I froze, half knowing the answer before she even said it. "Veronica?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Marnie nodded, wide-eyed. "She's talking to clients." A surge of anger bubbled up in me, but I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. "I'll handle it," I said, straightening up and walking out to the front. Sure enough, there she was, in the middle of my salon, her back to me as she chatted with an older woman who'd been coming to chic and sleek for months. Veronica's voice was in full charming mode, warm and sugary, like she was catching up with an old friend. "Glad to see you're doing well, Mrs. Reynolds," Veronica was saying, laying a hand on the woman's shoulder. "I've been thinking about you. We've missed you at Bellicut's. I can personally guarantee that if you come back, we'll offer you a special loyalty discount just for returning." Mrs. Reynolds looked uncomfortable, her eyes darting to me as I approached. "Oh, Danielle, I didn't," she just came up to me. "It's all right," I said, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder and giving her a reassuring smile. I looked Veronica straight in the eye, and my voice was firm but calm. "Veronica, I think it's time for you to leave." She raised an eyebrow, folding her arms over her chest with a smirk. "Oh, Danielle," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "I was just saying hello to some old friends. Can't blame me for missing a few familiar faces, can you?" "This is my business," I replied, my voice steady. "And my clients. You can say hello all you want outside, but this is my space now." She looked around, and I could see the faintest hint of irritation flash across her face. "Oh, I know, honey. I just wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I'm sure these folks will get bored and come back to Bellicut's eventually." "Veronica," I said, lowering my voice but keeping it firm, "you're free to run your business however you want, but I don't appreciate you coming here to poach my clients. So please, leave." For a moment, she just stood there, staring at me, her face frozen in an unreadable expression. Then, she shrugged, letting out a laugh that felt forced. All right, Danielle. Have it your way. But don't say I didn't warn you. People get excited about shiny new things, but they always go back to what they know. She turned to Mrs. Reynolds one last time. And remember, my offer stands. With that, she strutted out, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. She was losing, and she knew it. The salon was quiet for a few moments after she left, and I looked around at my clients, worried about what they might think. But then, Mrs. Reynolds broke the silence, shaking her head. What a piece of work she is, she muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear, and a few people chuckled, the tension in the room dissolving. Danielle, don't you worry about her, said another client, a younger woman named Ava who'd been with me since day one. We're here because we love it here. You've built something special. Veronica just can't stand that. I felt a surge of relief, and I managed to smile. Thank you, Ava. That means a lot. After that day, Veronica kept her distance. Rumor had it that Bella Cuts was struggling more than ever. She tried to attract new clients with flashy discounts and promotions, but word of her reputation had started to spread. More than a few people had come to Chic and Sleek after having bad experiences with her at Bella Cuts, and each time they shared their stories, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and satisfaction. One night, a few months later, as I was locking up after a long day, I saw a figure standing outside, just beyond the streetlight. My heart skipped a beat, and I wondered for a moment if it was Veronica, back to stir up trouble. But as the person stepped closer, I realized it wasn't her. It was Sam, one of the stylists I used to work with at Bella Cuts. He looked worn out, his face pale and tired. I hadn't seen him since I'd left, and I hadn't expected him to show up like this. Sam? I said, surprised. What are you doing here? He gave me a weary smile. I didn't know where else to go. Veronica's. She's just gotten worse since you left. The place is falling apart, Danielle. Everyone's miserable, clients are leaving, and she's treating us worse than ever. I felt a pang of sympathy. I'd always liked Sam. He was one of the few who'd stood up to Veronica when he could, but I knew how hard it was to leave. Sam, I'm sorry. That sounds awful. He looked at me, his eyes full of a desperate hope. Danielle, do you think? Would there be room for me here? I know you're doing well, but I don't know if you're hiring. I didn't even have to think about it. Of course, Sam. We'd be lucky to have you. His face broke into a relieved smile, and he let out a breath I hadn't realized he'd been holding. Thank you, Danielle. I didn't know if you'd want to, considering I stayed with her for so long. Sam, you're one of the best stylists I know, I said, meaning it. And you're not alone. Veronica. She has a way of keeping people where she wants them, but this is your chance to start fresh. He nodded, looking around the salon with a mix of admiration and envy. I'm so proud of you, Danielle. You did it. You really did it. As I watched Sam leave that night, I felt a wave of satisfaction and peace. I'd built something good, something people wanted to be part of. And I'd shown myself that I could stand up to Veronica, that I was more than the insecure girl she'd tried to keep under her control. In the following months, other former Bella Cuts employees slowly found their way to Chic and Sleek, each bringing their own stories of frustration and hurt. And each time, I welcomed them with open arms, knowing what they'd been through. Chic and Sleek became a kind of refuge, a place for stylists and clients alike to find something better, something healthier. And as for Veronica? Word eventually got around that she'd closed Bella Cuts. Some said she'd moved out of town, others claimed she'd gone to work in someone else's salon, a bitter irony that wasn't lost on me. In the end, she was just a memory, a part of my past that no longer had any power over me. Standing in my salon one evening, long after everyone had gone home, I looked around at the space I'd created, the chairs, the mirrors, the walls that I'd painted with my own hands. It wasn't just a business, it was a symbol of everything I'd fought for, everything I'd overcome. With a deep breath, I turned off the lights, locked the door, and walked away, feeling free, truly free, for the first time in years.